2024 County Council meeting. We will begin the meeting with the invocation that's going to be delivered by Corporal Barry Bales, the Public Affairs Coordinator for the St. Charles County Police Department, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Mike Elam. Please stand.
Let us pray. God, we thank you for the start of a new year, of a fresh beginning and opportunities that are presented to us. We ask you to give wisdom and guidance to the decisions that will be made in this place that affect our community, that there will be a peace on people's lives as we move through this new year with hope and expectation. Give us understanding and wisdom, God. Let your will reign and rule in our lives, God. This year, God, through every situation and circumstance, we ask this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Claire, please call the roll.
Councilman Swanson.
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel. Councilman Elam.
Here.
Councilman Hollander.
Here.
Councilman Hammond. Councilwoman Schneider.
Here.
Councilman Baker.
Here.
Thank you. First on the agenda is the election of the chair. I open the floor to nomination.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would nominate Terry Hollander.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there other?
I would like to nominate Joe Brazel.
Okay. So I have a second and a second. Okay. Any additional nominees? Okay. There being no additional nominees, I close the nomination. With there being two nominees for chair, Claire, please call a roll call vote on the first nominee.
For Terry Hollander, Councilman Swanson.
Yes.
Councilman Brazel. No. Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond. Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilman Baker.
No.
Okay. Please call the second nominee.
And for Joe Brazel, Councilman Swanson.
No.
Councilman Brazel. Yes. Councilman Elam.
No.
Councilman Hollander.
No.
Councilman Hammond. Councilwoman Schneider.
No.
Councilman Baker.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander has 4 votes and will be the council chairman for 2024. I now open the nominations up for vice chair.
I would nominate Matt Swanson.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominees? Okay, with no other nominees,
All those in favor?
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Swanson will serve as vice chairman for 2024. Okay. Conditional use permit, there's one tabled bill that I believe will remain tabled. Next up is public comments, and I want to remind folks that we will have 3 comments for, 3 against, although I think tonight we have enough folks that are here on one particular issue that we will extend that. And you will be limited to 3 minutes that will be on the clock. Okay? All right.
Bill 5252, Angela Quigley.
Ms. Quigley.
Hello, my name is Angela Quigley, and I am a resident of the Heritage neighborhood in District 7. I initiated a petition in my neighborhood last year in an attempt to address the rampant speeding and stop sign violations in our neighborhood. So our neighborhood consists of 2 large loops with several connector roads, and it's a prime cut-through area for surrounding neighborhoods to have quick access to Highway 364 at Heritage Crossing. The 2 loops often resemble a NASCAR circuit, with speeding drivers being the norm and stop signs regularly ignored. Even large delivery trucks fly through on a regular basis. Our neighborhood Facebook group consists of frequent resident outrage and stories of near misses. Along one of our main loops, Gettysburg Landing and Hudson Landing, we have no sidewalks. We just dodge cars, and we try to teach our kids to dodge the cars too. And in one day, it's going to end in a disaster. So after I submitted the petition to the county to review our neighborhood for traffic calming. I waited several months and sent follow-ups to Mr. Lyons, and I was told that a new quantitative process was being implemented to address the concerns like mine. There would be a new scoring system so the county could determine if there was a true need. So the results of the request are in, and our neighborhood was given 52 points, and at 55 points, it would be bad enough to do something. So we're right there. We're 3 points shy, and you're about to vote tonight to close the books on us, meaning that we won't get to petition for this study to happen again. And so I'd just like to take a couple of minutes to ask a couple questions about the new scoring system. And again, we are 3 points shy of doing something about it. So number one on your scoring system is accidents. Accidents over the last 3 years, according to your, the way you're reporting, they're awarded 10 points each for any accident, as long as the accident could have been corrected by the traffic calming devices. And so we've had 5 accidents reported in the last 3 years, but we were awarded 0 points because it was determined that they wouldn't have been corrected by any traffic calming measures. But the listed causes of the accidents were diabetic blackout, alcohol, improper lane usage, improper U-turn. So that's information on 4. We didn't get an information, we don't know about the 5th, it wasn't listed. And the report stated that without additional information, none of the accidents appear to have been correctable by traffic calming. But what I would ask is, was there any attempt to get that information? Like the one that was alcohol, the reason was alcohol, did that include speeding, and would that have helped? Could a speed bump have helped the situation?
Thank
And
you.
so we're not
Your
sure.
3 minutes is over.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, though.
Bill 5252. Sorry. Phil Bassett.
Good evening, Council. I went back and watched the video from last time. I wanted to touch on a few things briefly that were mentioned in the video and try to help clarify. Real quick, I want to touch on Heritage Park and the Heritage Museum, both of which are in our neighborhood. Additionally, the Heritage Bike Trailhead that connects to the Katy Trail. Both, according to the ordinance, both of those are supposed to receive 5 points under the other pedestrian areas. Neither one of them received any points. So that's 10 points that would have put us over the limit there to get us some traffic calming measures. I want to clarify on a few comments that were made. Streets are for vehicles. I researched several Missouri state laws saying that they're equally available for bicycles, and in the absence of sidewalks, they're equally available for pedestrians. There's also a law that says that vehicles have to drive with the highest degree of care when passing, and it specifically mentions children. Now, if you saw that video I showed of my son walking home from the school bus and the car driving 35 past him, it was an arm's reach away. He said, "Dad, I could have reached out and touched that car." That guy was accelerating around a turn hard while on his phone, and had he drifted 24 inches to the right, I would be planning a funeral for my son. Not because he was playing in the street, because he was walking home from the bus stop. That exact same scenario happens to him and all of the other kids throughout the entire neighborhood every single day. Every time they walk to the bus, every time they walk from the bus. People do not slow down past these kids. The law says they have to. They're not playing in the street. We need help with that. Additionally, I heard it was said he wants his kids to ride bikes and play in the streets. I completely agree that kids should not play in the streets, but I didn't say that. The 3 specific things that I cited was I wanted them to be safe when they're walking to and from the bus, going for a bike ride, or walking to a friend's house. None of those are unreasonable requests. The law says they're entitled to it. Obviously, my 5-year-old isn't going to go for a bike ride by himself, but he should be able to go with me, and my 11-year-old is old enough to go for a walk or a bike ride in the neighborhood to one of his friends' houses, and we don't need people driving that fast past them. 26 miles per hour average speed. That's a pretty slow speed already. The score shows there is not a problem. We have a lot of problems that are much more severe than 1 mile per hour over the speed limit. What problem are we trying to solve here? Those comments perfectly illustrated the frustration that I expressed to you, that we feel like we aren't being taken seriously. Those words were spoken by someone who doesn't live in our neighborhood, who doesn't see this problem firsthand every day, and doesn't have to worry about his kids or himself getting hurt.
He dismissed our concerns and pointed to a piece of paper that said 26 miles per hour. Look, there's no problem here. Well, we see it every day. So if he's going to lobby against us to you based off of a number on a piece of paper, please at least come out and see it firsthand. When Councilman Baker was at my house, 3 cars came by in the first 60 seconds, and every one of them was going 35 miles per hour or over the speed limit. It's happening all the time. That 26 miles is not accurate. I mentioned how people were slowing down, going over the speeding devices. I'm not going to have time to go over all of it today, but these are all of the speeds that I recorded. Everybody going, my recorded average speed is 34 miles per hour. I've got 53 people in 120 minutes going between 34 and 48 miles per hour. This guy comes through about 4 times a day. It's a little champagne-colored Chevy S10, and he's always going that speed or faster. Councilman Baker mentioned bus stops on the street. Francis Howell had to reduce they didn't have enough bus drivers to cover the same area that they had last year, so now elementary kids are walking farther. They're walking 0.2 of a mile to get to bus stops, and middle school and high school are walking half of a mile. And again, those people are driving past them that fast all of the time. It happens to every kid in the neighborhood, not just mine. There's also lots of adult pedestrians that are sick of these people driving past them. It's not just about me and my kids.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Lord?
Lisa Tierney.
I'm Lisa Tierney, and I live in the Heritage Subdivision. In December of 2017, I was walking my dog, and about a block from the house at Gettysburg and Fort Sumter, I was hit by a hit-and-run driver. She left me in the street, and I was lucky that a neighbor came out to assist me. As a result, I have a pin in my left leg. I have a, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I have a plate in my shoulder, and I had lacerations in my forehead with numerous stitches. The driver left me there, and it was due to inattentiveness and speed, obviously. So I do feel if they do some sort of speed humps or something of the sort, it would slow people down. I was crossing a street, and she went left and just hit me. And as a result, I'm fearful to walk in our neighborhood. If I do, I wear an orange vest. I hop up on the medians if a car comes by. And we do have Heritage Trail, which I try to walk on when it's light, but, you know, it's not possible at this time of the year. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bill 5255, Martin Maxey.
Hello, I'm Martin Maxey. I'm residing at 110 Brookfield Crossing Drive, Lake St. Louis, Missouri. And I wish to express my deep concern about the proposal to divide the commercial lot at Dwello and Inn. Despite its commercial zoning, I strongly urge you to reconsider breaking up the lot, as it endangers our view and poses a serious threat to our property values. Notably, my house would be within 200 feet of the proposed gas station. And the road construction that's already happening at Dwello involves removing all the existing trees that serves as a barrier. Our homes at Brookfield Crossing are the heart of our community. And with 500 feet of that gas station, nearly 20 children reside there, including 2 of my children and my brother's 2 children at 108 Brookfield Crossing, my neighbor. I implore you to carefully balance commercial considerations with the well-being of our families. Please refrain from breaking up that lot. It's pushing it closer and it's pushing it closer to where my house is. It's on elevation, and it's going to be 20 feet above us with beaming light and noise. And I don't know how much it's gonna affect the home values, but they're gonna be unsellable right there if we break up that lot and push that gas station right next to the road. I wish that we could maybe stop and wait for at least a traffic study for the Duello and N project to be done. I hear there's gonna be a lot of expansion with the road and everything, and we don't know how the traffic situation's gonna look. I'm afraid I'm gonna be right in the middle of a traffic jam in my backyard, and my deck's gonna be 30 feet away from this. So thanks.
Thank you.
Bill 5255, Nicholas Orr.
Good evening. Nicholas Orr. I'm a neighbor of Martin's and Brookfield Crossing Drive. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments tonight speaking on specific aspects of this proposal. A lot of folks that are going to be impacted by in different ways in the neighborhood across from Duello, from my neighborhood. One of the things specifically I want to touch on is safety. My wife and I moved our 2 kids to our house about 15 months ago, and I could not have imagined how bad safety is at Duello and N before we moved. It is really bad. Over the past summer, I recall one month just counting, like every few days, I would hear, because I work from home, I would hear an accident happen at that intersection. One of them, a car flipped over, rolled several times. I mean, it is a very, very poorly executed rerouting of that subdivision. I understand that it used to look a little bit different. I don't know how long ago it happened, but Duello apparently was moved where that intersects with N, and it is a nightmare for traffic. Accidents happen all the time. Some of them have been very bad. They keep the fire station, the EMTs, very busy at that intersection, unfortunately. And I foresee that if a gas station comes into that location with the way that the lot is proposed to be designed, I can't imagine that helping with safety. As Martin mentioned, I think that a safety review, or whatever you want to call it, needs to be done before we move forward with developing this lot. For similar reasons that he mentioned, I would oppose splitting the lot, knowing that the main proposal here is they want to put a gas station on it. I feel like if that's split in two, like he said, that's going to push that gas station closer to our neighborhood. His house, several of his neighbors' houses, they're going to be facing the drive that's on the plan here, getting headlights shown in their back windows all the time. You talk about a gas station that could be potentially open 24 hours a day. That's very annoying. And I would agree that it would also impact our property values. There's studies out there the numbers vary. Some studies will say like 4.5% to 15%. I don't know what the number is. I know it is a number. I think it'd be hard to argue that it won't impact them at all, but I couldn't point out specifically what that would look like. But again, just would appreciate your consideration in opposing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bill 5255, Mike Faulkner.
For record, my name's Mike Faulkner. I'm Vice President of Sterling Engineering Company. I'm here tonight on this Bill 5255. We're asking for the approval for the re-subdivision of Lot 2. It was originally part of the Dawn Meadows subdivision, originally when it was first developed. It was zoned commercial. What we're asking for is to be able to divide the piece into two. We're going to propose a C-store on the Duello Highway N intersection, and then off to the west will be a 16,000 square foot retail development that will be on the other lot. One of the other things that we're asking for is a variance because the subdivision ordinance says that if you divide any property, you have to be on a subdivision street, which means it'd be a county-maintained street. What we've done is agreed with staff that we will record an easement that will be for cross-access easement for both of those so that we can gain access to Duello from either property and also onto Highway N. We also had meetings with the Highway Department in which they asked us to locate our north entrance as far to the north as possible to gain a dual access. And then we have a right-in, right-out access towards up closer to the intersection. And then we have the entrance out onto Highway N. We had originally proposed 2 access points, but Highway Department said no, they wanted to keep it down to just 1 access. So that's what our proposal is. I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has, but again, this is already a zone C2. All we're doing is asking for a subdivision so that we can have the 2 pieces, the C-store and the retail, to be on 2 separate lots. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
We could, if we have any questions, we'll call you up when we get to the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bill 5255, Roger Friedman.
Roger Friedman, 109 Council Circle. I would just ask that the members consider how would you feel if your neighbor 75 feet from your house had 1,000 cars a day come in, car radios blasting, smell of gas, trash blowing around, chip bags. It becomes a meeting place for everybody in the area, chemicals spilled everywhere, noise blasting 24 hours a day. Would you vote for that 75 feet from your yard? I would ask you to think about that seriously. Would you do that to your family? Just take that under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bill 5255, Kelsey Kane.
Hello. I have a couple pictures just out of curiosity. Are you able to see these, or do I need to use a projector?
You can bring them up here.
If you think it would be better just to pass them down, you can do
Oh,
that.
that might be easier,
way.
yeah. Okay. All right, my name's Kelsey Kane. I live at 49 Wisdom Way. I'm in Dove Meadows neighborhood. I worked in healthcare for about 17 years, the last 7 as a registered nurse. The health and safety of my family, my neighbors, and my community is really important to me, and it should be to you too. You probably think I'm gonna sit up here and talk about benzene and all the dangers of long-term exposure, underground storage tanks with gas stations, groundwater, and what it would do to the yards and the gardens of the several residents that have property behind this proposal, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm not gonna talk about that. This plot approval is just the beginning of what developers are planning on making into a gas station, convenience store, or retail space. That specific plan might not be what you're deciding today, but dividing that lot is just the beginning. I want to show you why approving that plot and the coming plans to develop this land is not in the best interest of our community. Police warn about crime trend involving thefts at gas pumps. St. Charles gas station among 20 reportedly targeted by teens. Man charged in connection with armed gas station robberies. These are only 3 of the recent news headlines regarding gas stations and crime that result with a simple Google search. Gas stations are a hotspot for crime. The FBI reports convenience stores and gas stations were the site of 13.8% of robberies in 2022. Gas stations are open late, they're minimally staffed, they do a lot of sales in cash, they're usually located on a busy road, providing quick getaway access. They can be poorly lit, which, surrounded by residential space, and poorly lit Highway N combined with the above points provide the perfect place for crimes of opportunity. With this kind of development butting up to and towering over the residential property behind it, it also provides direct access to our subdivision, private properties, and even the windows of the houses that are right behind that development. There may be a landscape buffer included in the development plan, but as you see the pictures, those are examples of what the landscape buffer was that was put in when Sports Barn was built, which is just the lot that's vacant, next to the vacant lot. Not only does the location provide additional opportunity for thieves, but it also robs the residents of their privacy. Additionally, late-night traffic through the gas station could increase noise, Headlights beaming into the windows of houses could be keeping kids and parents awake at night. Gasoline is composed of 150 chemicals, not to mention the other chemicals spilled or sold at a gas station. Storm drain water and water runoff would deposit chemical residue in areas our kids play. Anytime there's snow on the ground, you drive by, you'll see kids going down that detention basin. What about the possibility of a large gasoline spill? It's $130,000 to clean that up. Who's going to be responsible for that if that happens? My husband and I moved out here 10 years ago from the city, hoping to give our kids, our family, a better opportunity for a brighter and safer future. The plans to develop a gas station towering over our homes, increasing risk for crime, completely negates the reason me and all of my neighbors moved out here. We know that that land is going to be developed, but we want things that are going to better the community, and a gas station, convenience store is not it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bill 5255, Sarah Tipton.
Sure that works. How do you turn it on?
You can set that on the
It'll come on for you.
Yeah.
You can set that on the
It'll come
tripod
on.
if you want
You
to.
can set that up there if you'd like. You're-
Okay, I will. When she says towering, this is what we mean. Okay, can I, is it working? Yay, okay. Sarah Tipton, 31 Wisdom Court in Dove Meadows, since 2018. I'm a 32-year safety professional. I am degreed in engineering physics, expressing traffic concerns about the cut-through relevant to the lot split and variance proposed for a gas station and a retail center. Thank you, council, for serving and representing the voters of St. Charles County and not being beholden to corporations. We appreciate the efforts to improve Highway N at Duello. Though ironically, we now find drivers comfortably traveling even faster than posted speed limits due to the straightening and the widening of the road. And despite recent and planned future improvements to N, MoDOT still prohibits access from N directly into a proposed gas station, maybe due to safety, but say shifting it just 150 feet down N into the retail center is okay, so I'll talk about that. As for Duello Road, the county's still really playing catch up. Another $2 million bid was accepted last month, we understand, for the third attempt to correct the severe curve, photo two, on Duello and the sightline issues on a several hundred-foot stretch of southbound Duello approaching N. The path many of us avoid at all costs by taking alternate routes, Orf Road, for example, but that which our most precious cargo is forced to travel. Families, school buses, and teen inexperienced drivers heading to 2 high schools, 2 middle schools, and 3 elementary schools. Accident risk factors multiply by further complicating this hairy stretch of road by adding 2 entrances into and exits from a gas station on the right side of this photo. Requiring fuel tankers turning from Highway N onto this windy, curvy, hilly Duello to cross backed up southbound Duello traffic, few shoulders if any. Picture a fuel tanker, 40 to 53 feet in length, rambling down that curved hill you see, crossing the lane filled with the family vans and the school buses and pulling into a new driveway between that black fence and the traffic sign to make the daily fuel delivery at the gas station. You don't need an associate in risk management to know collisions there would be catastrophic. Third image, this is the drawing from Sterling. The variance to the ordinance requiring an internal subdivision road between the lots indicates motorists from Highway N will be able to use the retail center entrance. And by the way, it looks like they anticipate a high volume of shoppers, and so they're going to be providing double the number of parking spaces. And travel through both lots from N through these lots, out that way or out that way, onto N or onto Duello. A commissioner at Planning and Zoning even said that cross-access is essentially functioning like a through street. This is an unofficial cut-through allowing vehicle traffic through N through a busy retail lot and gas station to 2 Duello exits. It presents additional injury and collision potential. Please carefully consider this, the numerous dangers to residents and property, and vote no on this lot split and variance.
Thank you, ma'am.
Still has no traffic signals. Thank you, and please drive home safely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Regarding I3 broadband purchase, Tony Frasilla.
Good evening. Like I said, my name is Tony Frasilla. I'm a Snyder about I3 broadband, the purchase. I want to say first, I live out in Defiance, so I live out in the rural area that deals with all these issues. My business deals with all these issues out there as well. Actually had a tech company there today dealing with our internet and our servers and all of that. Anybody that out there knows what we're dealing with out there, it's a mess. And I first want to applaud the council for actually taking an initiative to work with us out there in the community out there to try to get broadband out there. But that said, and I work in the construction business. One thing that we have to deal with is getting multiple bids when I'm putting projects out to bid. And I know that there was a list of verified vendors that took a look at this project, the pre-bid meeting. But it only happened that one company, to my knowledge, was the one that submitted a bid for it. Now, if I only have one vendor that's going to submit a bid to me and all the other ones backed out, I'm going to ask questions about why they're not bidding, because obviously there's a gap in my scope that I presented to them. It only makes sense that our government ensures that we have multiple bids for our taxpayer dollars. Again, I am all for expanding broadband out there, no matter the company, I don't care. And I'm not even advocating for the lowest bid, which government mostly chooses, and I think is an error in some cases. I'm advocating for the one that provides the most value to us, the citizens, regardless of the cost. But I think it's hard to understand that, we're going to vote on something tonight where we only have one number. One. Where are the other two? And I think in an order of good governance, that this council should demand that we at least go out and find two more bids against it. And again, if it's I3 that gets it, I have no problem. I have nothing against it. Nothing against I3, nothing against the councilman who holds a senior position at I3. But I think for the citizens behind me, who obviously have some other demands that require a few millions of dollars to fix some of these safety issues, this is something that I think should be tabled until we can go and find a couple other bids for this. So again, nothing against I3, nothing against the council member with the position here. I just think that for us, the citizens, it would be better for our tax dollars that we go out and find two bids before we vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Regarding consent agenda, Arnie Dinoff.
Can you please start the minute at 3 minutes? I was setting up.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Arnie A.C. Dinoff, County Public Advocate, running for statewide office or for Congress. And I'd like to say Happy New Year to everybody up on the dais and everybody in the audience. Closed meeting minutes of the council. You met several times in the past several months. I'd like to make a public information request through the county register, Mrs. Hinton, under Chapter 610 for A, actions, individual votes, closed meeting minutes, actions taken with regards to employees. I'd also like to make a Chapter 610 request for $400,000 lobbyists, contracts, and their weekly reports between now and May for the legislative session. Now, going through the agenda items with the traffic issue that I testified at the public hearing last month, these are the same issues that are happening in every neighborhood across St. Charles County. If you're going to do it for this neighborhood, you're going to have to do it for all other neighborhoods. I have to support the facts and professional recommendation of the county engineer, John Lyons. I'm assured by the police department and the police chief that there is firm traffic safety enforcement that's going on currently on a several time a week basis. With the sole source bidder for $3,688,000 for fiber optics, I'd like to hear more from Matthew Seeds, the department director, about more details, and I hope that you call him up to the podium. I'm making a public information request before the records are destroyed for road project documents from the Construction Division and Maintenance Division of the County Highway Department and a memo request dated December 5th, 2023, under Chapter 610 of the state statute. Vehicle Equipment Services, finally, we're giving it here in our county for $75,000, and same with Vehicle Preventive Maintenance. Let's keep our tax dollars right here in St. Charles County. When it comes to upper bottom road sidewalk for $180,000, we're giving it to a South St. Louis County company, and we should be doing it in-house with our highway workers. The Community Assistance Board funding recommendations for 2024, are these enough services that are gonna help people in need? The addendum number 3 to 112 Goodermuth Phase 3 Engineering Design Services, this now makes them the highest and the worst bidder, and we need to bring these projects in-house. Change order number 3, Route N and Route Z, again, the 38% increase puts them, I believe, over the other bidders. And again, change order number 2, M&H Concrete Contractors, concrete removal and replacement, again, it puts them at a higher bid. Property and services for the operation of the Family Arena and National Equestrian Center. I was shocked to hear in the media that you, up on the dais, spent $5.9 million of our taxpayer dollars to buy a entity that was paying taxes to the tune of $1,133,000 over the last 24 years.
Thank you, Mr.
And I have really reservations with the over $3 million in operations,
Thank you, sir.
contracts, and maintenance with
Thank you, sir.
employees. Thank you.
No other speakers?
Final speaker.
That was the final speaker. All right. Next on the agenda is an oral report from our county executive.
Not this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to remove the Information Systems Fiber Optic Cable Agreement.
Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that has been removed. Are there any other items to be removed?
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we will bring up the item that was removed.
Yes, since I have a relationship, as Mr. Frizella pointed out, with I3 Broadband, I am recusing myself from any discussion or any voting and won't have anything else to say about this matter.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Yes, Mr.
I got a couple
Brazel.
comments. On this particular bid, there has been some conversation on emails and so forth, going back and forth, the fact that, and this isn't just because it's Mike here, it's because we should have bids, multiple bids on anything we do. And we always go back to the administration and ask, why isn't there more bids? And on this is $3.7 million contract, not to have a sole source is completely, it's not good business, it's very bad business. And so I did call Matthew Seeds and I talked to him about it, and from what I understand, this has been going on for several years, they're negotiating this contract. And I do understand that the scope was put out, and they had a list of buildings that they were trying to touch with the fiber optics, county buildings, schools, firehouses, things like that. And from what I understand is there was a list of maybe 5 people who turned up on the pre-bid, in which I've called 5 of them, and 3 of the phones were disconnected. One, the guy retired, and the 5th guy never called me back, so I did call him back to talk to him. But they didn't submit bids except for I3. Now, I3 submitted a bid, but it didn't hit it did not hit the scope either, and so it was rejected. Since it was the only one that submitted a bid, it was they were called back in to negotiate the contract. The problem I have with that is the fact that the other companies may or may not have, I don't know because I didn't talk to any of them, may not have turned in a bid because they didn't hit the scope. I3 didn't hit the scope either, but then they were given the opportunity to negotiate contract, just one company, $3.7 million. I have a real problem with that. I think it's wrong, I think it's bad business. And then the whole other story is how many counties, how many government institutions are buying their own fiber networks? How many companies, why are we in that business? And I talked to Matthew, or maybe Mr. Gryfus, and maybe it's a business model on how you think, but why are we purchasing fiber optics? Who else is doing that? How many other counties are doing that, spending $4 million on fiber optics? Why wouldn't we just that the fiber optic company, like Spectrum and Charter, from what I understand, wouldn't let us own the fiber optics. So therefore, they might have backed out for that reason. I3 is allowing us to own the fiber optics, but why are we in that business? Why are we spending $4 million? I was told, well, that then we don't have to pay a fee on the fiber. Well, how much is that fee? I mean, how much does it take till we get to $4 million? I'd like to know that answer. I mean, so is it a business? What's the business model here? Why are we doing this? Why are we buying fiber optics? We don't own our water lines. We don't own our phone lines. Why fiber optic lines? Why are we doing this now? So it just doesn't make any sense to me that we're spending $4 million on fiber optics. None of us own our own fiber optic lines. I know we're not public, we're not government, but we don't own it. And so it was said to me, well, they're not as secure. You know, we have the sheriff's department, corrections department, whatever. It's not as secure. The fiber optics isn't that secure. So we're going to spend $4 million because our IS department can't secure our fiber optics? Really? Well, maybe our IS department don't know what they're doing. I don't know, but these are good questions. These are all legitimate questions. Now, keep in mind, we get this stuff to us on a Friday. We all have jobs. I mean, we have jobs where we have to work every day. And so we get these big packets on a Friday at 4 o'clock, and we're supposed to cipher through it on our weekends. Well, no, I got kids, and I have a family, and I got to deal with that. So then we have Monday to try to figure this out. These $4 million, these should not be consent items. Which should be a $50,000 limit like it used to be. But us council members don't have a chance to go through this. I don't know anything about Fiber 3, so I have to call other people and lean on it. And so I just have a real problem with the philosophical point of buying fiber optics. Why are we doing that? And $4 million, we could spend that on a lot of other good uses. And are we going to build our own network? Is that the plan? Because they sure as hell didn't give us a plan that I'm aware of. So anyway, I'm not going to support it. I'm going to vote no for it for those reasons.
Is there any other? Yes, Mr. Baker.
Yeah, Matt, you got a second to come up, please? I know, like Mr. Elam said, he recused himself from this vote, but I guess my question is, was there any input from Mr. Elam on the scope of the work?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Could you, while you're here.
Yeah, I was going to say, please, you heard what Mr. Brazel has asked. I'd like to hear the answers to some of those questions, and if you can reiterate some of them if he doesn't hit everything, if that's okay, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, man. We talked, yeah.
Yeah, I think an important piece of this project is, like you mentioned, there's a monthly fee that we pay to each of our locations that we connect our internet connectivity to, that we don't have to pay when we own the fiber ourselves. We have a vast fiber network in the ground, but there are single points of failure through the network, and by entering into this contract, this will give us some resiliency in those single points of failure and provide a loop, or a ring circuit, so that we're not reliant on those issues. We know that we connect all of our traffic signals via fiber, so that's kind of what helped build out this fiber network that we have. But I think there's a lot of uses for having the capability in the ground. You mentioned that we did contact a couple of the companies back when the bid process was going through, and it was the ownership of the fiber was important. The other companies are not interested in us owning the fiber. They wanted to charge us monthly for those for the cable, and I3, who submitted the bid, was okay with us having ownership of the fiber optic cable. The security piece, I want to clarify one thing that you mentioned. The security piece is not that we don't know how to secure our network, it's that our traffic is going across a network that is owned by a Spectrum, AT&T, et cetera, and that goes outside of our hands. Whereas if it's a private network that is owned by us, it never leaves the county, and therefore we're never dealing with a third party. That's the security piece that you brought up.
Terry?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So what would be so secure, necessary in county government? That's one question. And then you said that points of failure. So are you suggesting that if we own the fiber optics, there will be 0 points of failure?
If we build out this contract, there will be additional locations added to our fiber network that eliminates the single points of failure. That's correct.
So okay, and then traffic signals, what does that have to do with security?
I'm just letting you know that we have a large, expansive fiber network, and you were saying, why are we in the business of having a fiber network? Well, that's one reason why we are.
So
How many
Matthew, can
other-
you provide him how many, and maybe you don't know off the top of your head, but currently we operate over 200 miles of fiber optic in St. Charles County. What we're doing with this project is filling in the missing gaps so that we have the redundancy, so that if a piece of fiber gets cut on somewhere else in the network, that data can be rerouted through another circuit so that we don't lose service between, say, this building, the PD, the EOC, or any of our emergency communication towers that are critical to providing, that network, not only for traffic data, but also IT data as well as law enforcement. It's that fundamental backbone that we need to support day-to-day business of St. Charles County government. And having a reliable network is critical for that, and that's what this contract does. It fills those gaps so that we have a reliable network at speeds that we can't buy on the commercial market. We have right now, I think, 100 gigabyte service between here and the EOC.
Yeah, 100 gigabit service, yeah.
100 gigabit service. That is something we cannot buy on the open market. We can do it if we have our own fiber with our own switches, and that provides us that security because it's on our private network versus going outside the county government to a public network that has higher chances of being hacked. So fundamentally, this is providing us that backbone of critical infrastructure that we do have. Joe, you asked how common is this? It's very common. St. Louis County has their own private network that they operate. Every major community has been in this business for decades, just like we have for about the last 10 years. But we have gaps in our network as we continue to grow further west and throughout in other areas of the county that we just haven't been able to keep up with.
I would just say that I'm not sure, I don't disagree with having a fiber network. There's two issues here. The bid process is totally on its own. And then what's our 5-year plan with this fiber network? I don't remember having a long-term conversation about how much is this going to cost, 10 million, 20 million, and what are the cost benefits, cost sharing with other communities? Are we doing this? What's the benefits? I don't remember these conversations. Like, what's the business plan? Why are we doing this? All of a sudden, we're spending $4 million to tie in these loops. Okay, fine, but are we gonna know anything about this? That's one. That's a whole separate issue. The other issue is having one single source bid. That's a real problem. If you're telling me that you wrote a scope that only one person can bid it, why? I mean, because that to me is a problem. I'm in construction. I don't have that opportunity to just put on whatever roofs I want to put on. I have to compete in the market with everybody else. And that's the way business is. And if other governments were just picking one person all the time and spending $4 million, that's problematic. It's bad business is what it is. So for that reason, I'm not going to support it. I don't know about the other stuff you guys haven't given us any information on. So right or wrong, it may be a great idea, it may not be. I have no idea because you didn't talk to us about it. Maybe I missed the conversation, but I don't think so. But the bid process is something we talk about every time. We bring this up all the time. You guys got to get multiple bids. Why not? And for whatever reason, you can have as many reasons as you want, but it doesn't fulfill the obligation of proper bidding laws or proper bidding processes. And I have a problem with that.
Can I ask a question? I mean, was there multiple attempts to get multiple bidders?
We went out to bid one time.
Okay. And no one responded?
We had 4 or 5 people show up, our companies show up to the pre-bid meeting,
Okay.
but only one supply a bid.
Okay. And then the other 4 declined to bid?
Correct.
Terry, can I provide a little clarity on this?
Sure.
So what also makes this a little different, so generally when we go out to bid, we have a set of design plans and we're saying, here's the project that we want you to construct. And that's not how this project unfolded. What we did is we put out a bid to service providers, AT&T, Gateway Fiber, Spectrum, I3, Evergreen.
Gateway Fiber,
Is that the one that's in O'Fallon?
Cisco and Charter.
So we went out and said, of the service providers that provide service to businesses and homes in St. Charles County, what we're looking for is do you have dark fiber that's either already in the ground or will be in the ground? And if so, can you provide connections from point A to B? We don't care if that point A to B goes here, there, boom, boom, here, or straight line, because we didn't design the route. We just wanted the connectivity between the 2 points, because when you're traveling at the speed of light, you can get, here, you can get there pretty quick. So it was a unique bid because it was not a construction bid where we actually designed plans and asked for it to be built solely for the county. This is a fiber share model that's been done elsewhere throughout the country, where we're actually using dark fiber from an internet provider that they have in the ground or will have in the ground. Spectrum that has fiber, when they met with us and talked to us after the bid, said, we really don't want to give you dark fiber because that's an asset of Spectrum that we see has high value. And I think that's probably very similar to the AT&T and the other bigger telecoms. I3 was willing to negotiate that dark fiber uses for the next 30 years an indefeasible right of use. So it's a unique model that's a little different than a typical construction.
Thank you, sir.
Well, back to that, John, though, if you're given a good, better, best scenario, then you could do this fiber, that fiber, whatever, and you have three companies give us numbers, give us 3 million for this one, or 2.5 for this one, or 3.7 for this one, then have a conversation, show it to us, say, well, this is why this number is this number. You have no other numbers. And you and I had this conversation today. You put us in a bad spot when you guys do this. This is our job up here to maintain this budget. It's our job to make sure that our county laws are being followed. It's our job. We're elected by the people here. And this kind of stuff, when you guys put this on our table, it's not fair to us. It's not. And you didn't even explain it. I wasn't in any conversations about this till Friday. And you didn't even tell us that this was coming down the pike. You didn't tell us, well, what about this? We have a single source because they're better than everybody else, if in fact that's true. But we wouldn't know that because we had given no other options. And so for those reasons alone, you guys are just run loose on all this stuff and you're not going before the board like you're supposed to. And so I don't think it's right. I just don't. I think the whole thing stinks. I'm not going to support it. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Swanson, do you have any other questions, sir?
Yeah, I don't know who's best to answer this. Initially, it shows here on the information we're given that this project started negotiations on September 24th, 2021. So we're now looking 3 years back. Was this a budgeted item that was proposed through the budget? What's the history on this? Because as Joe has said, I don't have a lot of background information being 2021. Mr. Baker and myself just got on the board last year. So what's the history behind this, if you could provide that?
So September 24th is when we actually went out to bid for the project.
Okay.
The negotiations didn't start until around April of 2022. And it was back and forth with, legal on both sides of our organization and with I3 trying to figure out the terms and conditions of all of this. Because it's a little bit different than other things. There was a lot of complexity to it and took quite a bit to go through each legal side to get to where we are today.
So going back and forth with them, so they didn't meet the bid as it was proposed, and so there was negotiation?
So our bid had 302 sites that we requested have connectivity to. They responded with a bid that had about 120 or so sites that they could connect to, and they weren't willing to bid on any other ones because it was outside of their range of where they provide service, and they had no intention whatsoever of going outside that range of where they provide service. So they provided a bid that didn't hit all of those sites. So we went back and said, well, this doesn't meet what we were looking for. We were looking for 302 sites, and then it became, well, there's one bidder who supplied information on 100 and some odd sites. We're going to negotiate just those sites now and leave out the other ones that weren't included. And that's what began the contract negotiations then.
So on the other ones who bid, were they even close to that 100 number?
Nobody else bid.
They never turned it in.
So nobody even touched it?
No.
Because living out here a long time, I remember when we had cable initially, there was one game in town in St. Charles County for cable, and we all were stuck with them. And it kind of seems to me here, looking at the information, as Joe said too, I didn't have much time to research today and made a phone call on Saturday, and that was it. There's not a lot of people who are doing this. So we're only looking at a few individuals who even have the capability to provide this to us. and I3 seems to be the one that you guys have vetted, and the rest of them haven't piqued any interest at a contract of 3.7 million?
Correct.
Wow.
The only thing I would say, Matt, is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, finish.
Is when you guys did submit the submittal, you put your scope together in your submittal, you had a list of criteria. And so how do we know that the other, which, like I said, there's four people who bid it, and I called, no, one, two, three, four, I called three of them, their phones were disconnected, which was very strange. But how do we know that, the one company submitted the bids that did not hit the scope, and the other ones just assumed, since they weren't hitting the scope, that they weren't gonna bid it? And so how do we know that if you didn't say, why don't you guys submit the bids with as many as you can hit, they hit 130 out of, what'd you say, 350?
302.
Yeah, so they hit 100, less than half. How do we know that the other ones wanted to submit a bid if they knew they had that opportunity to negotiate it after the fact? We don't know that.
The bid, there's a process in place.
But you understand what my question?
I understand what you're saying, and I'm all about competition, right? Because it's better for the county as a whole. I mean, Spectrum is our internet service provider for us, for the county. So I would love nothing more than to have a company that I'm used to dealing with right there, but they didn't supply a bid, so I can't really do anything with the information that they didn't supply.
But did they know? Did they know that they could?
The answer to that is yes. And on the 300 list, it was, can you provide service to this location? Yes or no? And what was the cost? So any of the other internet providers that have fiber could have done the exact same thing that I3 did and provided a cost for the sites that they were willing to commit that they could provide service to within the next 3 years. So that competitive process occurred, and everybody had the same opportunity. Now, we can't help it that some companies didn't submit, like Spectrum, which we really were hoping that they would. We thought AT&T would as well, but they didn't. There is also there's a lot of concern about, and we have the same concern, and so the contract was written in a way that whatever the total contract value adds up to the 3.7, it's up to 3.7. So it's based upon the number of sites when they actually decide, okay, we're going to provide service to whatever this connection segment T to L. They will actually then provide the routing for that segment from T to L, the actual pathway, which roadways or which right-of-way it's going to go through. They'll get that and confirm that the price that they provided on that route, which was $245,000, is what they can achieve for, and then Matthew will approve and give them notice to proceed with that segment. We may end up only buying 10 segments of those top critical needs, or we may buy all 65 that are within here. Some of these 65, when we put this out to bid, we will talk to the other political subdivisions, the fire district, the school district, and the other municipalities that wanted to have a county-wide package that we all kind of partnered on. So if one of the sites, 65, is the Francis Howe School on O'Fallon Road. Well, if the school district decides that they don't want to pay in a partnership with the county, the $30,000 for that segment, we probably won't do that, connect that site. So this was that cooperation of talking with the school districts, the fire districts, the municipalities with the county, of putting out a package while we have so many fiber optic companies building networks in St. Charles County, and we have existing ISPs that have fiber optic network, of who will provide us this asset for this indefeasible right for the next 30 years.
So, perfect lead-in. So on page 416, it has the list of all the different businesses and all, and then that fee end on there, that's what we would receive if they tap into this fiber?
That is the cost on that page. That's the cost from what the county would pay to have that constructed.
Okay, and then do we recoup the dollars?
That is something that we definitely have talked to the other political subdivisions about.
Okay.
Because there is a benefit to the county than having the use of that fiber as well. A lot of the fiber goes along pathways that we're already going down that roadway to get to somewhere else, and there's a school right there. So it's going to definitely be a kind of a collaboration between us and the other political subdivisions on what is that cost share mechanism and how much are they needing, et cetera, for us to work through that.
Okay, so that's all negotiations into the future.
Correct.
Yeah, so like the city of Fallon wanted to include on the list of the first 300 sites, fiber optic to every one of their lift stations for their sanitary sewer service, so that they can actually have data back from that on the private network, and that would help them monitor and control their sanitary system. So those were included on the list. We have a price for those. If the city of Fallon says, hey, you know, we're not willing to cost share on this or pay for this one because there's no benefit to the county, then we won't proceed with that work. And that will reduce the value of the contract. The value is a not to exceed 3 point, whatever the total of all these segments add up to.
Okay, thank you, because I was a little confused on that page.
Are you done?
Yeah, thank you.
One last question. If this contract is approved, I3, does that mean from here on out, that's who you have to use is I3? Or because you said the other companies aren't capable of doing this?
No, that was for internet service provider I was talking about. This is giving us the use of that cable for 30 years.
I don't know, but to fill in any more, as John called it, fill in any more holes or gaps, do we have to use I3 every time we fill in a gap to this fiber net network?
No.
But if they're the only ones who can do it, how can someone else do it?
For the segments that we are needing, this is the only one that provide a response for. If there are segments in the future, if we, get another park or something that we don't have connectivity to, and it's out in Wentzville, I can assure you that I3 will not be part of that because they're not out in Wentzville. So.
All right, thank you, sir. Might I make a suggestion? There seems to be an awful lot of, questions, an awful lot of things that Mr. Brazel, Mr. Baker, others have kind of questioned. So I think it might be a good idea to go ahead and table this issue so that we can get some of the answers and some of the questions that you have in further detail. So I'll make a motion to table this particular issue.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a few points. I vaguely remember it myself, so I don't expect all of you to remember. But back when Jennifer was here years ago, she made a rather extended presentation about this whole thing, the smart cities, she called it. And I barely remember. Don't expect all of you to, and some of the newer people weren't part of that. So maybe we need to update that and present that again. But I guess the other thing, having gone through the process, and if you all want to be informed on these things, at what point in that process and how do you want to be informed? Because, Mr. Brazel knows very well how negotiations go. They go back and forth, and, we don't bring you a deal until we've got an agreement. I guess are you looking for the bid documents so you can see, it's being bid, or are you looking for how many respond? I mean, we want to cooperate with you, but I guess I don't know exactly how or what we could have done that would have answered all your questions that you all had tonight. So let us know if you can know what that is.
All right, there's a motion on the table and second to table this particular issue. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we will table this issue and bring it up at a later date. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is bills for final passage, and there's only one of those.
No, was the item removed from the consent agenda?
We just tabled that.
No. The Goodermuth Road Phase 3 change order that's on there?
No one asked it for it to be removed from the agenda, so we.
Well, it's never been put back on, has it?
Oh, you mean from the previous
Yeah.
one? Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm new at this, but.
Yes, okay. All right. Yes, is there a motion to bring that off the table, I guess is what
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you go, Mr. Baker. I'm sorry, I was not going back a meeting, I was looking at this meeting. Okay, go
Well, I
ahead, sir.
thought we skipped something.
Okay.
I did get the response from the highway department, and I guess there's some storm sewer design that was required, but
I still think it's a lot of money. I will vote for it. I just think,
You already did.
huh?
Didn't we already vote on it?
No.
No, we didn't vote yet, okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So, okay, so you, okay. All right, so this item has been brought off the table and has been seconded, so we will be voting on the item that was removed, which was the Gudermuth Phase 3 Engineering Design Services. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. All right, now we get bills for final passage, which is Bill 5252.
Bill number 5252, an ordinance overturning the determination of the county engineer and establishing traffic calming measures. Councilman Swanson?
What can we talk about?
We'll.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, okay. Anyone have any particular discussion, starting with Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I do. So, I've talked to Mr. Bassett a few times, and the problem with this area of is it Hudson Landing, is that there's really not a good solution. That's, I mean, we couldn't put a chicane. Speed humps, they work, but I can tell you, being a public works director at the city of St. Charles, we put speed humps in, they worked. We wound up taking them out, because what happened was people would drive around them in people's yards because they were so mad about them, or they would honk their horns at 3 o'clock in the morning because they were mad that there was a speed hump. So we wound up taking those out, and there's also created a problem with snow plowing. I know I'd offered putting up a flashing speed limit sign. I know there wasn't a whole lot of, didn't sound like the neighbors were too keen on that. I'd even thrown out maybe a cheaper solution, put up some landscape rocks along the median, and maybe to kind of visually slow the traffic. I'd never heard anything from the homeowners on that suggestion, but the problem is it's just not there's really not a lot of options with where this is located. So what, I do have a question for Rory. Now, if we vote this down, does it limit us to bring this back up at any time? Yeah. I mean, do we have to wait a year, or can we revisit it when the park's open and I don't know.
No, I don't believe that there's any time, requirement that a year go by before this gets brought back up for consideration. I don't believe so.
Because I think if there's some other options that we could look at that's cheap and something to look at, the speed humps aren't going to work. I mean, that just, I'm telling you, it's a great idea. I tried it, it failed. And there's no drainage here, so you can't really put those, I don't know what you're, can he come up? Is he
I
allowed?
will allow it, sure.
Yeah, come on up.
Does the projector work?
Yeah, you've set it down, it should click on there. There you go.
Does it zoom? There we go.
There we go, that's.
You see that okay?
Yeah.
So this is my street here, this is Hudson Landing, and this is right up the street, this is Homestead Court. We do have sewer infrastructure throughout the entire neighborhood, and I've got those marked here with these circles. A lot of places there are two across from each other. Some places it's not, but we do have sewer infrastructure throughout the neighborhood, so I know that was one of the concerns with the speed dips. And I actually drove through a neighborhood that had them, and it was noticeably different. So we do have the sewer infrastructure there, if that was something that you would be willing to consider. Also, this little frowny face right here is one of the breaks in the boulevard, and we've got these throughout both of the two main loops that go around the neighborhood. The yellow lines are kind of crudely drawn, what would be, I guess you'd call that a chicane, where on this side you could come out about 8 feet, and down here about 6 feet, which would have cars driving using this open area here, and then cars driving that would have to be forced to drive a little bit on this cul-de-sac here and then turn back in. Those are two ideas that one of my neighbors went out and measured that out. So the sewage infrastructure is there. and
Where's
there's
your
also-
house at?
Here.
Right,
Sorry.
right. So one of the issues with things like that is, and we found this when I experimented with the city of St. Louis, or St. Charles, is what happens is people get slowed down by these things, and they try to make up for the time that they've lost. So they actually, we've found that the speed sometimes actually increase when we put these type of things.
So-
It'll slow them down there. I'm not gonna disagree with that. But once you get past it, I think it has a tendency for people to speed
So
up.
this spot, right, I don't want to just focus on my street, but this
Right.
spot is kind of unique because it doesn't show on this map, but it's downhill. Both, this is a hill down and this is a hill down. And there is almost half of a mile between a stop sign up here at the end of the street and a stop sign back here. And there's barely any curve on that. So this is where I usually record speed, and this is one of the fastest spots in the entire neighborhood, where I got all those 34, 38, the driver going 48. They always come through here. It's easy to speed right there. So anything that would slow them down there, I understand that it's difficult, but you heard from Mrs. Tierney, like, she got hit by a car. We've got bad drivers in our neighborhood. My kid walks right past here. Where she got hit is 4 houses away from where my son waits at the bus stop. They have to stand in someone's front yard because they're scared of the cars driving by. I understand that it's a difficult neighborhood, but the answer of doing nothing and then telling us just good luck with your kids, good luck with the pedestrians, we need something. And there's options available. I think just because it's difficult to say, well, we're not going to do anything, that would be disappointing.
Where were the speed counters placed on there?
Right here.
At the bottom of the hill?
Yes, sir.
And there's no stop situation there, is there?
Not, roughly half a mile. The stop sign is probably 6 or 8 houses up this way, and then the next one is quite a bit further up the road. It's about half of a mile with no significant curve or stop in the traffic. But
Well, I talked to Mr. Greifsue about this scenario, and I think right now what we'd like to probably do is ask the police department to step up enforcement.
I would love that.
And we can maybe revisit this.
Absolutely.
Again, I mean, we're not going to say you're not going to get, something's not going to be done, but I don't think the chicane's going to work because you're impeding the travel lane. So that's, that's kind of a dangerous.
Understandable. That was just a.
That's kind of a dangerous situation. So I still think the flashing solar speed limit signs may be a good option, and that's relatively inexpensive. But I didn't think there was a lot of desire from the neighborhoods.
I would rather have something little that we can build on than nothing at all. I would love to have the police back there, but like I said, Captain Hunt told me that there's nothing that they could do for us, that they couldn't fix it. So that's why I came rather frustrated to you that we're going in circles.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this particular issue? I certainly feel for the scoring system. Obviously, it was very detailed. It seemed to me like it was very, extremely well thought out. And I know you came up with, a couple of points shy. But as Mr. Baker's pointing out, it seems the difficulty is when it comes to traffic calming measures, what could particularly work. So I think that's where we have the problem, and hopefully we can, as you mentioned, maybe do some things, some small things to build on this. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, please call the roll.
Bill number 5252, an ordinance overturning the determination of the county engineer and establishing traffic calming measures. Councilman Swanson?
No.
Councilman Brazel?
No.
Councilman Elam?
No.
Councilman Hollander?
No.
Councilman Hammond? Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Baker?
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 5252 has failed, but as we have mentioned up here, we promise you that we are going to talk with the police and see if we can gradually get you some, at least some ideas of what can be done to help your situation. Okay, next up is bills for introduction, starting with bill number 5253.
Bill number 5253, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by Tim Baker. An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1E Single Family Residential District to R1A Single Family Residential District per application RZ 23-16.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we move on to bill number 5254.
Bill number 5254, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by Tim Baker. An ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri approving the preliminary plat of Tower Summit.
Okay, questions or comments on this particular bill? Seeing none, that moves us to bill number 5255.
Bill number 5255, requested by Mike Hurlbert, sponsored by Joe Brazel. An ordinance of the County of St. Charles, Missouri approving the preliminary plat of the re-subdivision of Lot 2 of LMC subdivision.
Okay, I would like to, there's been a lot of you folks have shown up tonight and had 5, 6, 7 speakers. I think the first thing that I would like to do is have either Mr. Myers or Mr. Hurlbert come up and kind of explain to us exactly what this is calling for and exactly what we as a council can or cannot do. I also want to remind you folks that we are not voting on this tonight. This is a, introduction, and the actual voting on it would be the next meeting. But Mr. Myers?
Hi, my name is Robert Myers, Planning and Zoning Division Director. Why this is before you tonight is that normally preliminary plats are approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Anytime anyone, as part of that plat, applies for a variance from the subdivision regulations, it requires not only approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, but also by the County Council. So you just introduced a bill for a 3-lot subdivision, for instance, on Towers Road, and instead of providing an interior cul-de-sac that all lots would front on, they're proposing that each lot have a driveway out to a street, either Jacob Station Road or Towers Road. The same is true with this plat that we're referencing here, LMC subdivision. The property has been zoned commercial since 2008. LMC subdivision was divided from 1 lot into 2 in 2018. And now in 2024, the applicants are proposing to further subdivide one of those lots from 1 lot to 2. So rather than building an interior subdivision street and with a cul-de-sac for just 2 lots, instead they're proposing that those 2 lots take direct access from the roadways, the adjacent roadways. 1 lot would take access from Highway N. Obviously, that requires MoDOT approval. The other lot would have 2 driveways out to Dwella Road. Obviously, that would require the county approval. Whether or not it's a gas station or anything else, they're showing a gas station, a convenience store, a commercial center on those 2 lots. But that isn't necessary for the preliminary plat approval. They're showing that just for informational purposes. The essence of this plat is essentially to divide 1 lot into 2 and what sort of public improvements or private improvements are necessary in order to serve those 2 lots. And again, the heart of why it's before you is because they're requesting a subdivision, a variance from the subdivision regulations. So instead of building a cul-de-sac for 2 lots, they have driveway access out to those adjacent roadways. Sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Robert, so if this, let's say it did not pass, this does not pass, would they still be able to build a gas station there?
Yes, because its own C2 commercial district and a convenience store is allowed, it's a permissive use allowed by right in that district.
So what about the traffic light situation? Because I try to pull out of there. It's impossible to pull out of there around 4 o'clock. It really, truly is. It's a terrible.
Yeah.
And they keep telling me, John Lyons over there, John, maybe you can come up here too, but when is that traffic light supposed to get there?
2025, is that right? Okay.
Yes. Is that the best we can do? Because the community's been writing a lot of petitions about this traffic light, and it's probably the worst place to pull out in the county. It's horrible. And 3 more years, or, no, what is that? No, that's 1 year. Oh my God. I guess 1 year, wow. Maybe we look at doing some kind of, I don't know, some temporary lights or something, but it's a really bad intersection. But, so if we don't break it up, they can still build a gas station. If we do break it up, we can put all kinds of conditions on it, maybe a berm with big trees in the back, stuff like that. But if we don't break it up and they put a gas station anyway, we can do nothing. Is that correct?
Yes, no, typically the conditions relate back to the request for the variance or the need for the variance. So the conditions that are proposed in your bill all reflect the fact that they're building driveway access that meets the private street standards, for instance, and that there's an easement that allows cross-access.
Okay, I understand that. So what would that look like? Just explain what it would look like if they were gonna just make the gas station a 1 5-acre lot, okay?
Okay.
And then what happens? And so they can only have one exit and one entry? What is this cross-section? Explain that in layman terms.
Well, have you ever been to like a convenience store or on a strip commercial center and you need to drive right next door, but there's no way to get next door without getting onto the main roadway? You know, it's irritating, and also it causes more traffic movements and turning movements, and it's also more hazardous the more cars are just making circuits out onto the street like that. So instead of doing that, those who want to travel from, say, the convenience store to the strip commercial center, they could drive on a private access easement across the two properties. In other words, the two parking lots are connected. I guess that's the easiest way.
So is there anything the county could do to stop a gas station or or commercial until the roads are improved, until the traffic lights up? Can we, or would it be that much time before something was done and the light would probably be up?
Well, a couple of things. They have to meet all of the safety standards they have to meet the safety standards for MoDOT. And they also have to meet the safety standards for the highway department in terms of both of those streets. They've got to have sight distance, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the key. Now, in terms of timing, they haven't submitted for site plan approval. That process typically takes several months for a project like this. Once you start construction, it's probably going to be a year from now before something would be built, honestly.
But that would not come back to us, is that correct?
Right, yeah.
So John, is that when you say 25 next year, is that traffic light, is that at the end of 20, when can that light be put in? Do you
Well, I don't know the exact timing yet, because we haven't gotten to the bid phase or
Can we bid it?
design.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, we haven't gotten to the design or bid phase on that yet, so I don't know the exact timing.
Can we bid that, Steve, and then just use, if it's a 25 budget, can we bid it quicker, sooner than later in the last 6 months, and then just have it ready to go in January?
I think because the federal money involved, is that correct?
There is. Yeah, what makes this tricky is that route in is a state route. And so the traffic signals should be being constructed by the Missouri Department of Transportation. That is their responsibility. Because the county foresaw this problem, we submitted a grant for federal funds, and the county's going to complete the project in 2025. But we still have to go through and get MoDOT approval. They still are going to review the plans. They're going to be the agency responsible for the operation and maintenance of this traffic signal. So we wish that we could get it done quicker. And Joe, as you and I have talked, we've made a written request into MoDOT to put in temporary span wire signals there. They have denied that request. They don't believe that it's warranted at this time. So we understand the homeowner's concern about the traffic there, the accidents that have recently occurred, and I agree with them. So that's why we are trying to get the signal designed and built and approved as quickly as possible. And urging MoDOT to do whatever they can, should be temporary signals or additional stop signs. It's only a two-way stop, I think, currently, but,
So, this is maybe back to Robert, but, you can stay there for a minute, John, if you want, just in case, but I just want to be clear here. The gas station's up on top of a hill, and the houses are below it, and all these bright lights, okay?
Mhm.
Which I wouldn't want one there either if I lived there.
Sure.
So if we don't do the division, or or if we do, what can we do? Can we do anything about not having a gas station there? Or is it in that C2 zoning?
Well, there's lighting standards that all developments have to meet as part of the site plan review process. There's a lighting limit of 0.5-foot candles at the property line. And so we required an engineered lighting study that shows what the lighting is going to be at the property line. And they have to show to us where the fixtures are going to be located and what the lighting is going to be. So that's how we address that. That's the main way. The other thing that we do is that where it backs up to residential, a landscape buffer has to be put in. Now, I realize that landscape buffer may only be probably 6 feet tall upon planting. It will grow higher over time. One other thing that I would note is that the illustration that was shown tonight in terms of the photorealism illustration, what's interesting is really, rather than the gas station canopy backing up to the houses, it's really going to be the convenience store is going to back up to the house, and that strip commercial center is going to back up to the houses rather than the gas canopy. Although the gas canopy, as they're showing it on that drawing, is going to be turned sideways, and so the kind of the short end of the gas canopy is
Has
going
there
to...
been a plot plan submitted yet, or not?
No. Now, what they're showing is on the plat, they're showing for informational purposes how they propose that the layout be for the commercial part. Again, they didn't have to do that. They're doing that for informational.
So if
we
we
can see.
grant them the split, that's the only way we can put conditions in it to try to monitor lighting, buffers, trees. If we do nothing, they can put it in how they want, but they don't have, then they'd have to stay with the 5 acres and not have the extra lane they're asking for.
My understanding is you could approve the plat without conditions, you could approve it with conditions, or you could deny it. The other thing is, if this were denied, they would have one lot. They could build on that lot, and they'd have to build all to the county standards that you have in place currently for, site plan approval, including the landscape buffering requirements, the lighting requirements. All that's going to be required regardless if there's one lot or two.
Okay, I gotta go, Terry, I gotta pick up my daughter because of snow, they let her out of Chesterfields, but one of you people down there, you guys, whoever's organized, call me up and we'll talk about this.
Mr. Elam?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I ask Robert a question?
Sure.
Does our ordinance still really use the term gas station?
No, it's yours not.
I think it says convenience store, I think is what it calls. but-
Convenience store.
Yeah.
But the convenience store can include the gas pumps and everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. It just seems to me that the nature of that use has changed a whole lot in the last 20, 30 years.
Yes,
You see these things, and I think generally they go in before any houses do. But, they're gigantic, and they got all kinds of lighting, I would think, designed to attract people, to let them know it's there, as opposed to actually.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm just suggesting we're gonna do our master plan. Maybe we ought to take a look at this whole thing, because a convenience store is one thing. One of these convenience stores that has 16 gas pumps out in front with all this lighting, that might be something ought to, be a conditional use in the future, but that would be for the council to decide.
Any other questions for Mr. Meyer? Okay.
I got one quick question. So,
Sure.
again, he could have just came with a lot split and never said anything about a gas station or retail or whatever is planned on those two lots, is that correct?
Yes, that's true. They could have asked for a lot split, and rather than putting in a street, they could have asked for a variance, but not said what was going to go there, or not even have known what was going to go there.
Okay.
So,
That's what I thought. Thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion? Mr.
Just real
Swanson?
quick, for all of you guys who showed up, Mr. Brazel is your representative, so make sure you email him all of your questions moving forward, because we will not bring this up for vote until the 29th, or?
Next meeting in July, or in January.
I think it's the 29th.
It's the 29th.
So that's the time, so there's some time for you guys to organize, get with him and plan everything out. I know you have a question, but we don't do back and forth. No, her up front. So that's why I just want to let you know.
I had a question.
I know, and that's unfortunately, at this point, we don't have you guys come up.
Thank you for at least letting me know.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. You were patiently waiting. Sorry. There you go, Terry.
Okay, is there any other discussion here? Okay, seeing none, we move on to the next bill for introduction, or was that the last one?
No, we
There are
have
two
two
more.
more.
Oh, two more, I'm sorry. Bill number 5256, I'm sorry.
Bill number 5256, requested by Chief Kurt Frizz, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An ordinance authorizing execution of the revised St. Charles County Regional SWAT Team Agreement with municipalities who are signatories thereto.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we move on to bill number 5257.
Bill number 5257, requested by Robert Schnur and Ryan Graham, sponsored by Terry Hollander. An ordinance authorizing contracts for property and services necessary to the operation of Family Arena and the National Equestrian Center.
Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, that concludes bills for introduction. Are there any announcements? Miscellaneous.
Good luck to Highway Patrol, or a Highway Department, not Patrol, Highway Department on tonight and this week. Good luck, John, with your guys. Be safe. Everybody be careful while you're driving out there. My daughter called me earlier from Warrensburg and said roads were bad out there. She got her afternoon classes canceled and canceled for tomorrow too, so I'm sure it's on the way.
I just got a quick thing. I know Chief Frizz was interviewed on the news about the increase in I guess, apprehensions for police, and I
Yes.
just, crime's not up in our county, it's just that we're catching them here. And I just think that, I feel like a broken record, but I couldn't be any more proud of our county police and sheriff's department, so, thank you.
I agree. It's really kind of odd how they sometimes spin that.
Yeah,
Saying,
no
wait a
kidding.
minute, there's
a lot of
they've caught a lot of
crime.
guys out here, there must be a bunch of crime. No, we've just caught a lot of guys. That's great, so I appreciate it.
And Terry, one last thing. Michigan's up 17-10 and half.
Whoa, Michigan.
There you go.
Okay.
Congratulations, Mr. Hollander, on another year as chairman, and I would move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.